World football's ruling body, FIFA, is meeting Rwanda to talk about the future of the sport. Incumbent President Gianni Infantino was re-elected to serve a second term after running unopposed. He set out his agenda for the next 4 years. That includes a big boost in prize money for the Women's World Cup this year, up some 300% to 110 million. FIFA said the Women's World Cup won't be sponsored by Saudi Arabia's tourism authority. And this after pushback from teams and the tournament's co-hosts Australia and New Zealand. Also on the cards, a revenue target of 11 billion for the next 4-year cycle, up from 7.5 from last cycle. Infantino says these funds will be distributed to football development projects around the world. And for all things FIFA, I'm joined by Samindra Kunti, live from Kigali, Rwanda. He's a sports reporter and contributor to the BBC. Very much thank you for joining us. Tell us the significance about this I guess, new term for the president, because the last time we had the World Cup, I don't want to say it was controversial, but there were definitely a lot of questions.
Yeah, thank you for having me on, and you are completely right. It was very controversial, the last World Cup in Qatar. But this new term for Gianni Infantino means that he's even more firmly in power and that he can dictate what will happen in the next 4-year cycle. And there was no dissent really in the Congress today, which voted him in or re-elected him by acclamation. And that's a bit telling for the football or soccer industry, as you like, that there is no debate, there is no discussion, there is no dissent. Gianni Infantino is the next big boss of football, and he's keenly aware of that. And we will see what happens in the next 4 years. But slowly, piece by piece, he's becoming the next Sepp Blatter.
We just mentioned regarding the women's sport about who would be the sponsor, who would not be the sponsor. Saudi Arabia is now out for, you know, some would call political reasons, other would call, you know, perhaps ethical reasons. Did he handle this controversy right, and did he do the right thing?
Well, with Gianni Infantino, there's always two ways. He says one thing, and then he does the other thing. And that might sound a little bit controversial, but that's how he operates. He does one thing, and he says the other thing. But in terms of the Saudi sponsorship, which was very controversial for the Women's World Cup, which will come up this summer in Australia and New Zealand, there was a sponsorship supposedly of Visit Saudi, which is the tourism board of Saudi Arabia. And today in the press conference, he denied that there was any such contract with FIFA, whereas other journalists and colleagues, and myself included, have understood that there was such a contract. But Australia and New Zealand have, you know, made a big pushback. So it is very controversial, and Infantino in the press conference did not rule out that at least in the future there will be sponsorship from Saudi Arabia for women's games, but not in this World Cup this summer.
And let's talk about the change also in prize money. Significantly increased under what some people said should have been done a long time ago. Is that the right move, or do you think that number could have been even higher?
Well, it is again controversial, as everything is with FIFA. Infantino has said this many times before, and we'll give him credit there, which is not a thing that a lot of journalists would do. Women's football obviously deserves a bigger number in terms of broadcast rights, but you can't really kind of, I'm using a strong word here, blackmail the broadcasters to pay more money, because there are two ways. You have to defend women's football or you don't. And Gianni Infantino, as a FIFA president, is always in the middle. And today he obviously said there will be more money, there will be more prize money, but in the end it's never really clear if Infantino and FIFA take women's football all that serious. It's kind of a PR talk, and it's not a nice thing to say, but that's how they consider it.
All right,
And
well,
obviously,
fair enough, but in the world of business, and I don't want to oversimplify it, but you can easily take the money that's taken in, at least from the broadcasters, right, who pay billions of dollars in sponsorships for, say, the men's side, and you can calculate how much they are paying for the women's side. I mean, are you telling me that it's just one payment that covers both men and women's, or they are separate? Because it should be easily calculable how much revenue there is to share among both groups.
so very simple story. In the past, it was man and woman together. So the Women's World Cup obviously was offered together with the Men's World Cup, and the broadcast fees had no impact whatsoever on the women's side. Now FIFA want to kind of, say the women's side is very important. But the issue here is how much money will broadcasters pay? And there is only so much money in the market. And when you talk to big public broadcasters, let's say BBC, for example, in the United Kingdom, there's not so much money going around. So the market has to sustain what they can pay for the Women's World Cup. At this point, they can't. And then Gianni Infantino perhaps is rightly saying you should pay more. But at the same time, he's defending women, but just wanting more money, and that is part of
Right.
his game of.
I feel like the issue of fairness continues to come up, and if maybe there was a little more transparency, and I know they can't disclose everything, but I feel like there needs to be more transparency if you want to put this controversy aside. Samindra, really appreciate you giving us some analysis on this. Thank you again.